has state products. It then returns a type selector function that will return a reference to that specific slice of state. So create feature selector returns a selector function that looks up and returns a specified feature state. That generic type is passed into the type of feature state that we get from the selector function. In this case, the selector will return a feature type of product state. Our product state will then be managed by various reducers that we'll look at momentarily. Now that we have easy access to product state through get product states, we can use it in our component, just like this. To get the state we need, we have to rely on mapping via map to extract it from the top level feature state. We are dot walking product state with each map call. This works nicely, but again, it's repetitive, not reusable, and more difficult to test as a unit. This is where create selector comes into play, and we'll work out where we can combine it with our create feature selector. Due to being pure functions that return a slice of state, selector functions can be composed together to be consumed by components that may be composed from various places of our overall state. To kickstart composition, we need to define a starting point, our top-level feature. We're able to easily get a reference to the top-level property by using create feature selector. Once we have that reference, we can then compose it with other selectors that point to state further down in our feature state. We start at that point where state is defined and managed the reducer. We're going to use the app from this pizza example. Product state represents the feature state of the feature module, is composed of other states that reside one level below in the state tree, which are pizza state and topping state. Our product state is managed by our reducers, an action reducer map that contains two reducers, pizzas and toppings, and each one manages the individual lower level state respectively. Well, let's visualize what the state would look like if this was purely a JavaScript object. To get our pizza entities, we need to follow the path like we saw in the beginning. Now we can introduce a create selector to obtain reference to properties further down our state tree, which allows us to ask for pizzas whenever we need. We've already defined get product state has a feature selector that gives us back the state slice that corresponds to product state. All that's left is to compose it with other selectors to build the chain down to our state tree. So let's dive one level deeper and use create selector to jump down another level. Note how we pass get product state has the first argument, so we can begin our state lookup from this point, and just like that we have access to a property located further down in our state tree. The create selector function takes up to 8 selector functions as arguments. Each one's referencing different slices of state. The last argument to create selector and can be created as a projector function. So let's take a look at one of the TypeScript definitions of create selector to further grasp this before continuing. We don't need to panic ourselves with all the typings here. Okay. The projector functions is passed as arguments the return values of the selectors listed below before it's ordered in which they were listed. The role of this projector function is powerful. We can ask for various state properties anywhere within our state tree. We can derive, transform, or combine data from state slices passed to it and return this modified data as a single object, typically for component consumption. Prior to creating get pizza states, in order to get pizza entities in our component, we need to do this. However, With our newfound get pizza state friend, we can now knock out one of the map calls. You can likely guess how we can now complete our journey and reference those entities, but the way we gain access is a little different and typical. Let's take a look. What's important to notice in the pizza state reducer is the functions that are exported at the bottom. These are state property selectors, pure functions. That is a great place to export all other properties of the state level so that we can easily compose them in the next level up, which already has access to them through an import statement. Back in our top level reducer, index.ts, we're going to compose a selector that can finally return our beloved pizza entities. We can use from pizzas.getPizza entities has a projector function of create selector that will return a reference to the pizza property entities. Can we drop that last map that was left in our component code? Why, certainly. We can now supply our entities. And now we return us something like this. That's great and exactly what we needed. However, with Angular or any framework, we really expect this data structure back as an array. In the case of Angular, we then ship it nicely using ng4. Entities represent a way of normalizing data structures by using unique IDs. So what if we want to convert our entities base selectors into an array format for consumption via ng4? We can create another selector and use the projector function to map our data structure across to an array quite easily. It has benefits. In state management, we might want to look up items via their ID, and we may do it by referencing get pizza entities, where, for example, we could pass a route parameter ID into our selector and return that single entity. No loops, no maps, just an object lookup. It might be for some components we actually want entities, and for some like a view, we're more interested in the same data but has an array. Well, selectors, as mentioned, they're fast and only recalculated when required to do so. So with our mission complete, we can now pass that one selector into our store.select and we're done. So the conclusion is selectors are a really somewhat complex beast, but I'd really just say that we can use them via functions and reference them various pieces of our data structure. And once we've composed our data structure via selector, we can ship it off to our components for consumption. So thank you very much for this, and please subscribe and visit Todd Moto and look at his material. He's also a very, all this material is actually just from him. Remember to subscribe and have a great night, everyone. Bye.